Hello friends, and not yet friends, welcome back to Mary's Test Kitchen, where pumpkin seeds can do no wrong. They make the most luxurious plant-based milk, the richest soy-free tofu that's more like cheese than tofu, and today, let's see what happens when we apply a traditional yogurt making method to it. Which is what Will It Yogurt is all about, making traditional foods out of non-traditional ingredients. Along the way, we're sure to see both successes and failures to learn from. So don't be shy, drop your suggestions and requests for upcoming episodes in the comments below. Last episode, we put soy to the test, and with a pretty simple method, we made some pretty good yogurts. So making yogurt from beautifully rich pumpkin seed milk might seem simple as well, but those who know already know. This milk has a unique self-coagulating quality that is great for making tofu, but will it get in the way of turning these into that creamy luxuriousness you saw in the thumbnail? Spoiler alert, it wasn't clickbait, but what kind of hoops do we need to jump through to make it happen? And how high? How about nutrition? Will the taste justify the means? Plus, how mad is your wallet gonna be? Hold on to your gourds, my friends, because I'm spilling all the seed crits. I've got 5 variations in mind for this experiment, and we'll need 1.5 pounds of raw seeds. To make milk easily, we'll want to hydrate them by soaking in plenty of water, and since we strive to be food safe around these parts, I'll put them in the fridge overnight. Next morning, they've plumped up nicely. We began with 1.5 pounds, aka 681 grams, and ended up with 915 grams. These seeds basically drank a cup of water. I guess they were pretty thirsty. Now to divide them into 5 competing teams. The first team gets golden flax, high in omega-3s, they have some protein, and they make a gel when soaked. Next, psyllium husk, better known by the name brand Metamucil. This ground husk will also absorb water and create a gel. I'm hoping one or both of these ingredients stop the milk from coagulating when it hits 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we have large rolled oats. Shout out to the great plant-based innovator and cookbook writer Miyoko Shinner, who posted a video a few months back using oats and pumpkin seeds in one of her homemade yogurts. I'll link her video in the description below in case you want to check it out. Her version uses so much oats though. I could never the way carbs flare up my chronic tendinitis, so personally, if this works with a smaller amount of oats, I'm gonna be so happy. Last 2, plain Jane, no extra. One is our control, and the other's the wild card. You'll see. Then they each get a fair 415 milliliters or 14 fluid ounces of water. And a quick 30-second blend on high speed in the Vitamix, long enough to pulverize the pumpkin seeds to get as much protein out of them as possible, but not too long that the puree becomes way too difficult to strain. It's a balancing act, and I have a feeling our additives might put a wrench into my usual method. Nonetheless, they must all go through my trusty nut milk bag. For each, I'm adding a 1/4 cup of water into the nearly empty blender jar to get as much as the residual out as possible. We're not trying to waste anything here. Famous last words. Seriously though, this nut milk bag deserves a medal. It never fails me, no matter what I throw at it. And we won't waste the pulp. Oh no, I've got delicious plans for it, but you'll have to stick around to find out. Next up, the pumpkin seeds plus psyllium husk.
There's no way I'm going to be able to strain that. There's no freaking way. Are you kidding me?
Well, doesn't that look extra healthy? This yogurt is gonna be fiber and all.
Oh, we can feel the slime on this one. I don't know why I'm surprised. Oatmeal is notoriously slimy. So far I'm finding it hard to squeeze only because it's so slimy and slippery that it's hard to get a grip on this bag. See how wet that pulp is? It's so wet.
After all this squeezing, my hands need a vacation. In fact, I traveled all the way to the grocery store and bought chia seeds, because why not add more chaos to the mix?
My hands are done. Oh my god. My hands are so done.
By now, I'm rethinking my life decisions because even though my chronic tendonitis is no longer an issue, I had not considered muscle endurance when I designed this experiment. But then, swooping in to save the day, I remembered my juicer. Thanks to all of you who shared your experience making milk in a juicer in the last video's comments. This batch is plain pumpkin seeds and water. Apparently, the trick is to blend first to make the extraction more complete.
I think we've just made more work for ourselves, not less.
Alright, okay, I officially recommend not to buy a juicer to make this less work. It's not a knock on the juicer per se. As far as juicers go, I actually think this one works really well and is very well priced. And it feels like good quality. It feels sturdy. But this was not less work, as you could see. Maybe less effort, less muscle, but at the end of the day, so many more things to clean. So for the last batch with only raw pumpkin seeds in water, I'll go back to the blender. And the nut milk bag. And see how easy this is compared to all the others? Now we cook. We've got to heat away all those sneaky pathogens trying to ruin our yogurty dreams. And we get to see if any of the additives stop the seed milk from coagulating during this process. But first our control. No additives in this one. Once we get to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, well, anyone who's seen my previous pumpkin seed tofu videos will already know it self-coagulates. Great for tofu. Not exactly the right texture for yogurt though. Next, the pumpkin seed milk from our juicer. It's basically the same thing, so of course the result is the same. But this time we'll blend it smooth for a better texture. And now for our teams enhanced with golden flaxseed, oats, and chia seeds. The flax and chia at first seemed to be doing something. Well, they tried. But almost never counts. They both coagulated by the time we got to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's Vitamix time. And they do come out nice and smooth. Meanwhile, the rolled oats, what a hero! It stopped coagulation like a champ. Too bad milking it was an Olympic effort. Taste test time.
It doesn't taste like oatmeal, but it definitely has the mouth feel.
Lastly, our psyllium husk and pumpkin seed milk isn't quite milk anymore, but it does need to be cooked through. I added a little water to help. I'm not so sure that helped. Now all of these need to cool down to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, just slightly warmer than room temperature, before we can add the vegan yogurt starter. I'm using vivoculture like last time, and when I designed this experiment it was only for 5 variations adding up to 2 liters, the maximum this bottle of starter is designed for. However, in my sheer brilliance, I added that chia seed patch on a whim, so we're pushing the limit here, my friends, trying to ferment 2.5 liters with starter designed for only 2. Risky business. But you know how I love to live dangerously. Incubation started at about 6 p.m. on Friday evening. After 12 hours, 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, I checked the ones at the front, because easy access.
Yeah, it just tastes like pumpkin seed tofu. Warm pumpkin seed tofu. So, it tastes good. Let's try this one. This is the one from the juicer, but basically it's the same thing as the control, only we blended it. Looks like we have some separation, the thicker yogurt and the whey. Let's give it a taste. I don't know, there is some texture that is not totally smooth, but I actually don't mind it. It's not fully sour yet though. Let's give it a couple more hours. Alright, let's try the flax one. This one definitely has a smoother texture. The taste is still quite bland. It's not tangy yet. So I'm going to put these back in the incubator.
I kept checking every hour or so, different jars with new sterilized spoons. I got texture, but no change in taste that I could perceive. I actually took to the community page and let you guys know this was taking longer than I had expected. And somebody suggested that maybe it's taking longer because of the high zinc content. Was this hindering fermentation? I don't really know. Some of you like to ferment your yogurts for as long as 48 hours, so I kept going. Now before we go any further, I must warn you, if you're easily squeamish, click ahead to the next timestamp now. Now it's 6 a.m. the next day, about 36 hours since these all went in.
Oh, this one looks bad. Now for the psyllium husk. This one looks scary. Like, look at the side of this. There is definitely microbial activity. Now, is that the probiotic microbial activity that we want? Ugh. No, it doesn't smell good. It smells, like ammonia. So that tells me some yeast action is happening. That's gross. Okay. This didn't work out. This one's the flax, and I'm getting that slight smell from it as well. And I'm touching the side of the jar, and I should have already known because it's quite warm when I touch the side of the jar. It's not very, very warm, but it's warmer than I know it should be. Crap. Now I'm just... No, we're gonna start over. When it comes to fermentation, better safe than sorry.
To say I spiraled into a pit of despair would be fairly accurate. So to keep my spirits up, I decided to turn this leftover pulp into one of my favorite snacks, and tried to think of all the positives. We learned a lot from round 1. We did learn that flax and chia seeds do not stop coagulation, at least the way I did it. But we also learned that blending the coagulated curds and whey turned them into a nice, smooth, creamy milk, and they taste pretty good too. Psyllium husk makes things super thick, and maybe next time I would just use less. Then oats, even in a small amount, will stop coagulation, but it takes an excess effort to milk. We could do so much with this newly gained knowledge, and I snacked on these crispy, wonderful crackers while I designed round 2. But with more realistic ambitions this time, I brought only 2 contenders to this final round. First, a batch using just pumpkin seeds and water. Obviously a must. Then, because it was the best tasting milk and made the best texture before things went horribly awry, flax. Same amounts, same method, blending, milking, cooking, blending again. Poured our mixtures into newly sterilized jars. And another difference, the vegan starter culture, I used 1 full bottle between these 2 batches to maximize their chances against any pathogens. This would also make the ferment go faster. But I also set the dehydrator to only 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so it stays warm enough, but just barely, and this would make the fermentation go more slowly. However, no chance of getting too warm this time. They went in at 3 p.m. on Monday afternoon. And 15 hours later, we're back at 6 a.m. I have to admit, I was a little nervous because the night before I checked at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., I even set an alarm for 2 a.m., but then I slept through it, so here we are. It's thick. I feel like I taste a hint of tang, but it's so... I don't even know if it's actually there or I'm imagining it. Check out, we have some separation on the bottom too. Don't worry about that. That's not anything. That's just like the dried part of the milk. Kind of got dried around the edges of the container there. It's like a game of pickup sticks. Alrighty. I have high hopes. Alright, taste test. It's a little bit tangy. I'm not imagining things. It is a little bit tangy. Success! I was getting worried there, my guys. Alright, so this just needs to cool in the fridge, and then we'll see the actual final result. In the meantime, I'll be sterilizing 2 jars to put the finished yogurt in. Smaller because it'll take up less room in my overcrowded fridge, but also they are cuter, don't you think? Now for the moment of truth. Our homemade pumpkin seed yogurts are fully chilled. We can see a distinct texture difference. We also have some whey separated at the bottom. We could definitely have a thicker yogurt by skimming off the top, but for this test, I think I have to stir them. Final taste test. Yep, it tastes like blended raw pumpkin seeds with just a little bit of that fermented flavor, a little bit. Tangy is not even the right word for it. You can just tell that it is fermented. Now for our flax. You can see it's thicker. Definitely has a creamier consistency, but still it's quite runny. The tang is much more pronounced. Like, this actually tastes much more like regular yogurt. But of course, it still tastes like pumpkin seeds, which is nice. It's very rich. And this one definitely has a silky mouthfeel to it. It's really good. After all our trials and tribulations, we have a winner. But how mad is your wallet going to be over these luxurious homemade vegan yogurts? Only you can say. Each batch produced a smidge over 475 milliliters of yogurt, used 136 grams of raw pumpkin seeds. Bulkborn has the seeds on sale now for a bit less, but recently I'm paying around $2 Canadian per 100 grams. I used Vivo's vegan starter culture, which is $3 a bottle if you buy the 5-box pack. So that's $5 in supply for this jar of 475 milliliters or 6 ounces of plain pumpkin seed vegan yogurt, which is $3.65 US according to today's exchange rate. For our flax version, it used 2 tablespoons or 20 grams of golden flaxseed, which I also bought at Bulk Barn. Again, I'll use the regular price, 10 cents for our 2 tablespoons. So that's $5.10 Canadian for our winner, or $3.72 USD. So my wallet is not exactly doing a happy dance, but hey, for this amazing vegan yogurt, maybe it's worth it. Honestly, I haven't decided. Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe nutrition will affect your decision. So for anyone who wants to skip this part, let me remind you of the timestamps you can skip with. I'll just throw the numbers here on screen, but keep in mind that this is an estimate. I can't really 100% tell you how much fiber was stripped from the milk. Probably a little protein and fat stayed with the pulp as well. Probably nothing substantial, in my opinion. So, in summary, pumpkin seeds will yogurt. It might take a little longer than other milks and it doesn't turn out as tangy tasting. Different additives will totally change the flavor and you can decide which ones are worth your effort, because the effort varies a lot. Next time, I want to make the oat milk and chia and flax gels separately before adding to the milk. I think that might make things much less muscle intensive. I also feel like these experiments answer some questions, but spark even more questions in return. Speaking of which, thanks for coming back, even though I took forever to post this one. I have to admit, I took a lot of time between round 1 and round 2 because my mental state was not there. And I also then had the impulse to experiment with a new editing style, as you could see, etc., etc. It took forever, and then now here we are. Thank you so much for watching Will It Yogurt, my friends. Let me know what else I should yogurt. I think at this point, I'm going to go back to tofu for like maybe an episode or 2. As you could probably tell, the end of this video here is unscripted, and that's why I'm rambling. I should just say bye. Bye for now.